I do not create it as a downloadable file since it is a short narration script for you to read directly. Here it is, rewritten fresh, in first person, with new names, and shaped to run close to 10 minutes when narrated at a natural pace. The dress was ivory white, and it was the only thing I could see clearly. Not the flowers, not the string quartet, not the 200 faces turned toward the aisle. Just that dress, and the woman standing inside it who used to be my little girl with scraped knees and crooked pigtails. I was supposed to walk her down that aisle. Instead, in less than an hour, her own mother would pull me aside and whisper 5 words that would nearly break me in front of everyone I loved. My name is Michael Carter, and I spent 22 years in the Army before I hung up my uniform for good. You learn things out there that never leave you. You learn to stay quiet, to read a room before you speak, to survive silence that is heavier than gunfire. None of that training prepared me for what happened at my own daughter Emily's wedding. I had driven 6 straight hours to get there, replaying every memory I had of her, the birthdays I missed, the letters I sent from places I could not even name, the promise I made every single time that I was always thinking of her no matter how far away I was. Emily had built a life I barely recognized. Law degree, a fiancé named Nathan who came from serious money, a world of wine glasses and country clubs that felt like another planet compared to the deserts I once called home. Her mother, my ex-wife Diane, had built that world brick by brick, and she had done it without me. That was on me too. I signed the papers, I answered when my country called, and somewhere in between, I became a name on a birthday card instead of a father in the room. So when I pulled up to that pristine venue in my dress blues, medals polished, hands sweating worse than they ever did jumping out of a plane, I told myself today I would finally show up the way she deserved. The moment I found Diane in that marble lobby, she barely looked like the woman I once married. Pearls, a designer dress, a smile so practiced it did not reach her eyes. "You are here," she said flatly, like I was a delivery that had finally arrived. Then she leaned in close, her voice dropping into something cold and urgent. "Michael, listen to me carefully," she whispered. "Do not eat anything until the VIPs leave." I stood there stunned, certain I had misheard her. She explained, almost annoyed that she had to, that Nathan Father Robert and his circle of business partners were particular people, and my presence near the food, near the guests, might send the wrong message. "Do not embarrass Emily," she said, before turning and vanishing into the crowd of laughter and clinking champagne glasses. I spent the next 3 hours standing near the kitchen doors like hired help, watching waiters glide past carrying trays of shrimp and lobster while my stomach twisted with hunger I refused to acknowledge. I watched another man walk my daughter down the aisle because Diane had decided that was better optics. I watched Emily cut her cake, laugh with her new husband, glow under lights that never once found me in the shadows. I told myself I was doing this for her, that a father silent in a corner was better than a father causing a scene, but every polite smile I forced felt like it was cracking something inside my chest. Then a tall silver-haired man in an impeccable suit walked straight toward me, champagne glass in hand, and said my name like we were old friends. "I am Robert Whitfield," he said, "Nathan Father. I have heard so much about you." I blinked, confused, because Diane had made it very clear I was supposed to be invisible to men exactly like him. "Emily talks about you constantly," Robert continued, his voice warm and genuine. "She tells everyone her father is a hero, a soldier who gave everything for this country. I am a veteran myself, Vietnam, and when I heard you had just come off active duty, I made it my mission to meet you tonight." Robert did not just shake my hand. He took my arm and walked me directly past a panicking Diane, straight to the head table, and pulled out the empty chair beside my daughter. Emily's face lit up the second she saw me sit down. "Dad," she said, voice breaking, "I was so afraid you would not come." "I came," I told her, "I am here." Robert piled a plate high with prime rib and lobster, set it in front of me, then picked up a microphone and silenced the entire reception with one booming toast to the most important man in the room, the father who sacrificed everything so this beautiful bride could stand here today. The applause was thunderous, and I looked up to see Diane frozen in the corner, her face drained of every ounce of color, because the illusion she had spent all night protecting had just shattered in front of everyone who mattered to her. I picked up my fork and finally ate, and it was the best meal of my entire life, not because of the food, but because of what it meant. Then Emily stood, took the microphone from Robert, and looked directly at her mother with a fire I had never seen in her before. My mother told my father not to eat until the important guests left, Emily said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. She told him to hide because it might hurt our image. But my father is not something to hide. He is my hero, and I am ashamed he was ever made to feel unwelcome at my own wedding. A gasp rippled through the crowd, every VIP turning to stare at Diane, who stood there exposed in front of the very people she had tried so hard to impress. Emily walked over, placed her hand on my shoulder, and said simply, "Eat up, Dad. You earned it." The rest of that night became a blur of dancing, laughter, and Robert introducing me to friend after friend as the man who inspired him most. Diane sat quiet and small for the remainder of the reception, stripped of the control she had clung to all evening. The next morning Emily called me and said she had talked to her mother, that Diane was sorry, but that was not why she called. "You are not a secret, Dad," she told me. "You are not something to be managed. You are a pillar of my life, and if anyone ever tries to push you out of the picture again, I will walk out with you." I sat in my car for the 6-hour drive home, and for the first time in years the silence did not feel heavy, it felt earned. Diane had tried to starve me into invisibility, but she forgot something important. You cannot erase a soldier, you cannot hide a father love, and you cannot bury the truth forever no matter how expensive the tablecloth is. The best revenge was never going to be shouting or storming out of that ballroom. It was simply sitting down, being seen, and letting my daughter own the story out loud. I drove home that night with a full stomach, a healed heart, and a text message glowing on my phone screen that read, "I love you, Dad." And for the first time in a very long time, I truly believed I had finally been given my seat at the table.